Okay, hello and welcome everyone. Welcome to JFD Traders Tea Time with me, Darius and Anucauskas. Today is the 21st of May 2019, so welcome everyone. Welcome to this Tuesday's afternoon session where we're going to have a look at the markets, view the charts, the usual stuff. But before we do that, as always, let's quickly have a read through our risk disclaimer. So, the content we produce does not constitute investment advice or investment recommendation, should not be considered as such, and does not in any way constitute an invitation to acquire any financial instrument or product. As always, a few seconds for you to read the rest, and we can continue. Okay, so now then, let's quickly jump into the charts. Now, the first one I want to talk about is the S&P 500. Now, yesterday it closed slightly in the negative zone, and but still kind of remained above this 200 EMA. So, but looking at the cash index right now, the index seems to be already trading back above this level here, this highlighted zone, which I've got around the 2,855 level, and is now back above it. So yesterday I talked about this one, and I told you guys to keep a close eye on the sorry, not yesterday, a while ago I was talking about this level here, the 2,855 level. So now, like I said, it's back above it, and to be honest, it has a good chance to travel back up here. The only thing is that this little territory for us is still going to be somewhat of a neutral one. In order for us, let's say, to consider much higher areas, or at least some higher areas, at least the areas above the 2,900 level again, we need to see a nice good push back above the 2,892 zone, which is right here, this one, the other highlighted zone here. We need to see a nice good clear break, and ideally a close of the 4-hour candle before we could consider further moves higher. Initially we will aim for the 2,913 zone, or even actually going further up here towards the 2,942 area. Now, just to kind of show you what that level was here, so basically that was the previous all-time high that we saw here, until it kind of was overtaken by the one in the end of April, in the beginning of May, in the first days of May. So this was the high of the September, the highest point of September and of 2018. So 2,942 could get a test again if we see a nice good push above the 2,892 level first, and then we will take it from there, see if it actually wants to reach the 2,913. But if that fails to withhold, then yep, this is what we're going to be targeting. But again, like I said, I'll repeat myself, first we need to see that nice good clear break here above the 2,890. This little territory for us, this is a bit of a neutral one. If and like as I said, right now the cash index is already trading above this 2,855 level. So let's say if it travels back below it and we see a drop below yesterday's lows, which were around the 2,840, now this is where it could turn out a bit ugly for the S&P. We could see this one sliding back down, initially aiming for this 200 EMA here, but again, if that fails to withhold, slightly below that, we do have the 2,801 zone approximately there, which marks the lows of the 13th of May. So keep your eyes on this one. Like I said, for now, looking at the cash index, it is slightly above this 2,855 zone, so we could see this. We'll probably most likely see this nice gap here to the upside, getting back above this 2,855. But then again, for now, for us, this little territory here is a bit of a neutral one, because in order to consider upside, we need to see a nice good clear break above the 2,892. So keep your eyes on that one. Platinum. Very quickly on this one, so very interesting, one of my favorite commodities, or should I say precious metals, and I talked about this one a while ago, and I was telling you guys to keep a close eye on this this downside resistance line, that it's a very long one. It has been running here from the highs of let me just go back all the way here. So basically that was the highest point of August 2011, and as you can see, the index managed to travel back below it and sold off, and now it's currently sitting near this other key important support zone near the 808 zone. Don't forget that slightly below that we still have, and we're still targeting that psychological 800 level. So in a way we could see a test of that one, but if we do see a test, and if we do see the price kind of stalling near the psychological 800 level, now this is where we're gonna take it cautiously and carefully, because we may see maybe a small rebound here back to the upside. Of course, for now, looking at this picture, we are slightly more bearish than bullish, but then again, we're not going to go drastically to the downside too much. Initially, we will aim for the psychological 800 level. Now, if we do see, let's say, a small overshoot here, or an undershoot here below the 800 level, now what you could target here as well is this little area around the 795 level, which was marked by the inside swing low, inside swing high of the 13th of February, guys. So we could see, like I said, we could see like an overshoot here. We could see a drop lower. 795 could be tested, but let's say the 4-hour candle could not close. Let's say if it doesn't close above the 800 zone, now this is where we could potentially aim for a bit of a correction here back to the upside. Initially aiming for the 820 zone, approximately there, and then we'll take it from there, see how it performs. The 820-21 acted as a good area of support here previously, but slightly below that we do have this little peak here, but that's exactly around the 820 zone. So that's why, guys, keep your eyes on this level. Again, I'll repeat myself, for now we are slightly more bearish than bullish, but again, we're not going to go too drastically to the downside here. We're going to aim for the psychological 800 level. The last resort here could be this 795, but if, let's say, that all these two fail to withhold, now this is where it could turn out to be very ugly for platinum, and this one could continue sliding further down. So for now, let me just put an arrow here just for this future reference. This is what we're going to be aiming for, and this is what we're going to be targeting. For now, it's the 800, the psychological 800 level, but let's see how this is going to play out around that level. Jumping into a few pairs now. So AUDCHF, very interesting one. So we are, straight away I'm going to tell you that we are slightly on the neutral side on this one for now, because for a better confirmation of the downside here, we need to see that nice good break here below the 0.6927 zone, which is marked by the lows of last week. So in other words, a break below the lows of last week could send this one lower, because it would confirm a forthcoming lower low, and we could then target the areas around the 0.6887. And just to show you what that level was here in the past, it was approximately around the inside intraday swing low of the 3rd of January this year. So a good potential target here, but again, we will only consider that if we see a drop below the 0.6927 zone. So keep your eyes on this one. In terms of the upside, if, let's say, this decides to push back above the 0.6980, now this is where it could become a little bit more interesting for the buyers, because we may see that little correction here back to the upside. And the reason why I'm saying that a correction, because we're still below this downside resistance line taken from the high of the 23rd of April. Still, this short-term downside resistance line is still in play. So in a way, as long as it kind of remains intact, we will kind of consider another potential slide to the downside here. And that's why, guys, for now, be very careful. Even, like I said, even if we see a push above the 0.6980 zone, this could, of course, lead to a further uprise here. Maybe, like I said, this larger correction. For us, let's say, to turn bullish on this one, at least in the near term, we need to see that nice good break above this downside resistance line, and ideally a nice good break above this 0.7065 level. This way, it could open the path towards higher levels, but again, we'll consider this scenario if we get closer to this downside resistance line. For now, we are stuck here. We're keeping a close eye on these levels. So basically on the downside is the 0.6927. We need to see a nice good break and ideally close with the 4-hour candle below it before we could consider further declines. And of course, in terms of the upside, a push above the 0.6980 could kind of potentially could open the path towards slightly higher levels. But then again, we're still going to be very cautious with the upside. USDJPY very quickly having a nice pop here to the upside. Now this is I kept talking about this one in one of my previous videos because I was saying, guys, that before we could consider higher levels again, we need to see that nice good break and ideally a close of the 4-hour candle above the 110.25 level. So basically we are having this nice pop here right now, but most likely we could see this one closing already above this 110.25. so in a way, now you can see that the pair is holding its path towards the R2. It kind of just fell shy of a few pips from hitting the R2, and slightly above that we do have the 200 EMA, which also could get tested. For now, all this is kind of looking more bullish than bearish. Don't exclude a possible move of something like this. So in a way, we could see this one traveling higher, hitting the 200 EMA, and then maybe retracing, coming down a little bit. And let's say this is where we will keep a close eye on. We will keep a close eye on this 110.45 zone, because this could prove to be a nice area of support as well. If, let's say, like I said, if this candle continues to travel higher here, hits the 200 EMA, and we may see maybe a small retracement here back to the downside where we could test the 110.45 level from above. Of course, this is just an idea here, guys. Let's wait and see how this candle is going to close. Like I said, it most likely could already close above this 110.25 unless something drastic happens here. If something like that happens, if the pair travels back below the this 110.25 zone, of course this could continue sliding lower. The only thing is now it could test this 110 zone, the psychological 110, but again, until it's kind of trading above this tentative upside support line, we will remain still somewhat bullish. Like I said, even if it drops back below the 110.25, this upside support line could be that last resort for the bulls kind of to step in and potentially drive this one higher again. But if this starts failing and if we see a drop below the 110 zone, now this is where we could then aim for these levels that we saw here in the well, I should say last week, basically around the 109.70 and or even the 109.29. So for now, guys, this is the game plan. Keep your eyes on this, keep your eyes on the 200 EMA, or initially of course the R2 and then the 200 EMA. If we do see a test here, then we'll just try to figure out where at what point it will decide to retrace a little bit lower. If it does, then yep, we'll try to find that nice support zone, one of which could be this 110.45 level. So keep your eyes on this. Now, GBPUSD, very quickly. So having a nice spike here to the upside. So basically, we did have some news coming out from UK, and Theresa May is set to speak today in front of the. Basically, she's is expected to deliver a new proposal for her deal. That should be, according to the data here, that should be around the 15 GMT time, so 15 o'clock. Keep your eyes on that. So we may see a bit more increased kind of volatility here in the pound pairs. So looking at this GBPUSD, you can see that the pair traveled lower initially this morning, broke below this 1.2710 level, but kind of never reached this 1.2670 zone. So it found good support around here near the 1.2685, from which it reversed and pushed back above the 1.2710. Now, of course, this is finally kind of looking somewhat promising maybe for GBPUSD. The only thing is that, as you can see by the arrow that I've got here, we still even if we still see a push higher, still there's a lot of negativity around the whole Brexit issue, and in a way we could see this one traveling a little bit higher. We will class this as a correction to the upside. Now the rate could get stalled around here, around the 1.27 1.2770 75 85 zones approximately there. As you can see, this area acted as a good support zone back here in February, so this time it could play the role of a strong resistance, but again, of course, like I said, from the very short-term perspective, it is looking quite interesting right now, because we may see this one pushing higher. Now if this level here, if this potential resistance zone gets broken, still not all is lost for the bears. The pair could travel higher, and in a way, as long as it remains trading below this downside resistance line taken from the high of the 3rd of May, we will continue targeting lower areas, but if this, let's say, suddenly pushes back above the 1.2865 level, and of course breaks this downside resistance line, now this is where we will shift our views towards the upside, at least in the nearest term. We will then target 200 EMA and the area slightly below the psychological 130 level. So for now, guys, of course, this is looking quite interesting. Let's see what Mrs. May has set for us today, and like I said, be very careful with the pound pairs. Like for now, looking at this picture, it seems that it does want to travel higher, but it's currently struggling to kind of overcome its pivot. So in a way, for now, keep your eyes on this one. This pivot is around the 1.2730 zone. A nice good pop of this could send the pair a little bit higher towards the 1.2775 zone, approximately there. This is what we're going to target first, and then we'll just take it from there, see if it actually wants to retrace back down or not. But if it starts breaking the 1.2775 or 85 zones, then this could open the path towards this downside resistance line. Similar story with the GBPCHF. So it managed to rebound from this key area of support that we were keeping a close eye on, this 1.2820 zone, approximately there. So it rebounded, pushed higher, almost managed to reach this 1.2890. So basically it's stuck here between these two levels. For now, we're gonna wait for a break of one of these, or ideally actually a nice good close of the 4-hour candle, of a 4-hour candle either above this 1.2890 level, so that we could consider higher moves to the some higher levels, or we will wait for a break below this 1.2820 before we could consider the downside again. Because if we see a drop below the 1.2820, that's great news here, but ideally we would like to see a nice good close of a 4-hour candle below the 1.2820 before we could consider further declines. This way the pair would confirm a forthcoming lower low, and we could then aim for the 1.2775 or even lower. For now, it's stuck here. We are somewhat neutral. We're going to continue observing this one and see how this is going to perform further on. But again, like I said, these are the levels. If we see a push above the 1.2890, certainly we are going to aim for slightly higher levels, but the only thing is that we're not going to go drastically to the upside yet. What we're going to aim here for is for the psychological 130 level. So for now, keep your eyes on these two levels, and let's see how this is going to play out. Okay, guys, I hope you found it useful. Thank you very much for watching and listening, and if you want to join me tomorrow morning at my Trader's Espresso, as always, that's 6 o'clock GMT time. For now, I hope you have a wonderful evening, and I'll see you later. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.